Today we're going to read Langston Hughes' story, Thank You, Ma'am, and the title is really interesting. But we need to know a little bit about Langston Hughes because I think he really changed a lot in America. And so what we're going to do, we're going to start over here with Bailey. You're going to read one sentence, and then we're going to just snake around the room. So when it gets to Rena, we'll hop over to Alyssa, and from Madison over to Grant, to Anna, back to Isabella, up to Claire, and over. You're filming, so we're going to go to India and then back. Everyone read one sentence, and I may pause along the way and talk about his life. Read. Go ahead.
Langston Hughes had a varied career that took him far away from his birthplace in Joplin, Missouri.
Okay, Joplin, Missouri. Would you call that north or south?
South.
Sort of south, okay. And where have we had a lot of race problems recently? No. In Missouri. Where in Missouri? Ferguson, Missouri. So you can't, some people said, oh, that's in the middle. It's probably not as racist as, maybe Alabama was in the really racist time period. But Joplin, Missouri has its own issues, okay? Or Missouri in general. Okay, go ahead.
His early love for reading books was encouraged by his mother, who often took him to the library. His mother also wrote poetry and gave dramatic readings. Her work required her to travel extensively.
Okay, so his mom was a big part of his life. Okay, keep going.
After his parents separated, his father moved to Mexico, and Hughes went to live with his maternal grandmother.
So his mom's mom.
She too had an influence on his future career.
She was a good storyteller, and she often told about the days of slavery.
So he's had two really strong women in his life. One who loves to write poetry and took him to the library, the other who loved to tell stories. And so it almost seems very genetic that Langston Hughes became a really cool writer. Okay, go ahead, Anna. The maternal influence.
The maternal influence and the sense of deep pride in his people, then referred to as Negroes, are evident in all of Hughes' writing.
At 19, Langston enrolled at Columbia University but left after a year.
Okay, I'm going to pause for just a moment. When was he born?
1902.
When did he die?
1966.
Do you think he experienced racism in his lifetime?
Yes.
A lot, right? Okay, so 1904, if he's born, let's say he goes to college when he's 18. So what year is that? 1920s, okay, in the 1920s. All right, so he went to Columbia. Does anyone know anything about Columbia?
Yeah.
It's
New York.
Ivy League. It's in New York. Have you seen it?
Well, my cousin was gonna go there and play football, but then something happened. It was kind of sad.
Okay, very sad. But Columbia is a prestigious school, Ivy League school. Very nice. Riley was just there in New York a week ago, and they went to a yearbook publication convention, and it was at Columbia. She said, Mama, it was gorgeous. I've never been to New York. She says it's really old and beautiful and well established, okay? So he went to Columbia. Now, why am I shocked?
Because he's black.
Because he's black. And do you think they accepted many black people into their school at that? So he had the brains to get in there, but what do you think he lacked? Money. I think that might be, I don't know this for certain, but that's why he got he left college after 1 year. He had to go work. So let's see what the next thing he does is. Okay, go ahead.
He traveled throughout Europe and Africa and worked at many jobs, including being a deckhand on ship and a dishwasher in a Parisian nightclub.
Money was always a problem, but he persevered and remained optimistic.
Whether he was struggling as a student at Columbia or working as a waiter in Washington, D.C., he continued writing poetry that praised his race for its beauty and humanity.
Okay, this is what makes him special. Langston Hughes wrote about he wrote poetry and stories that praised his race for beauty and humanity. And now you got to think about this. How many black writers do you think there were in the early 1900s? Not many. And so to finally have one that all of the American public thought was a pretty special writer, it gave the black people somebody to read that they could relate to and that made them positive in the literature and not in they aren't in a negative light in like some of the previous American white writers maybe did. Do you understand? So he was kind of a hero in the black community, but he was highly esteemed by all readers. And so he really made a breakthrough. So why is it ironic that he had to leave college because of money? What did it end up doing for him?
Getting him a better career.
Yeah, it gave him an even better career because he couldn't stay in college. You see how funny that is? So the fact that he left college where he could have studied, it enabled him to go out into life and really study. What were some of his jobs? What did it say there? A deckhand, and he worked in a waiter at a nightclub. He was a dishwasher at a nightclub, and he was a waiter in D.C. So he traveled on ships everywhere. So I think his life experience was probably even more valuable than 3 more years at Columbia. You know what I'm saying? So that's really cool as a writer. Okay. In the 1960s, is it your turn?
In the 1960s, Hughes chronicled the civil rights movement in the United States.
He wrote about sit-ins, the marches, the church bombings, the hatred, and the hope. His poem, I Dream a World, begins.
I dream a world where no other man will scorn, which means hate, treat badly, where love will bless the earth, and peace its paths adorn. Adorn means decorate, so it's used there as a metaphor. So he has a very optimistic view. Okay, go ahead. Next one.
Hughes died in 1967.
Okay, and Lucas?
His plays, poems, and stories are the legacy he left to the American people, who he hoped one day could live in a racial harmony.
Who could live in racial harmony. Who does that sound like? Martin Luther King. So Langston Hughes was a real instigator of positivity in the black race in America. He was a hero to them. We're going to read a story today called Thank You, Ma'am. You know what's wonderful about this story? It's not sad. It's rarity. You better cherish today, because usually literature is sad. You know that we choose to read. But this one is a very powerful story. I love it. It's 2 pages long, okay? So right now, if you're watching the video, you can either turn me off and not listen to me read the story, or you can listen to me read the story and then get to the point where I'm teaching. If you turn it off, just read to yourself and then fast forward to the part where I start teaching, okay? So right now I'm going to go ahead and read. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead and turn it off for a second and start it. Thank you, ma'am. She was a large woman with a large purse that had everything in it but a hammer and nails. It had a long strap, and she carried it slung across her shoulder. It was about 11 o'clock at night, dark, and she was walking alone, when a boy ran up behind her and tried to snatch her purse. The strap broke with a sudden single tug the boy gave it from behind, but the boy's weight and the weight of the purse combined caused him to lose his balance. Instead of taking off full blast as he had hoped, the boy fell on his back on the sidewalk and his legs flew up. The large woman simply turned around and kicked him right square in his blue jean sitter. How embarrassing. I mean, this kid makes a lousy robber. You know, he tries to steal a purse, and in the process he wipes out, and then she kicked him hard right in the butt. And it's funny because the next thing is worse, okay? Then she reached down, picked the boy up by his shirt front and shook him till his teeth rattled. I mean, she was taking care of this kid and really giving him heck for trying to steal her purse. After that, the woman said, "Pick up my pocketbook and give it here." She still held him tightly, but she bent down enough to permit him to stoop and pick up her purse. Then she said, "Now, ain't you ashamed of yourself?" Firmly gripped by his shirt front, the boy said, "Yes, ma'am." The woman said, "Why did you want to do it for?" The boy said, "I didn't aim to." By that time, 2 or 3 people passed, stopped, turned to look, and some stood watching. I mean, it was a real spectacle. This woman was really getting after him. He should be embarrassed. He just completely messed up stealing a purse, you know, and then she was beating him up. So and then this is the best part. "If I turn you loose, will you run?" asked the woman, and he doesn't lie. He says, "Yes, ma'am." So she knows he's kind of an honest kid, because, "Yeah, if you let me go, I'm out of here." "Then I won't turn you loose," said the woman. She did not release him. Then it gets better. "Lady, I'm sorry," whispered the boy. "Uh-huh. Your face is dirty. I got a great mind to wash your face for you. Ain't you got nobody home to tell you to wash your face?" "No'm," said the boy. "Then it will get washed this evening," said the large woman, starting up the street, dragging the frightened boy behind her. So you got to imagine this big fat lady with the kid in a headlock dragging him down the street. I'm sure people stop to watch. But I like this lady already. What do you like about her already?
That she's like strict but like nice.
Yeah, I want to wash your face, and she's getting on to him, but she's wanting to do what?
She's like kind of like in those movies where they're like those, I don't know,
Yeah, she's taking care of him. She's that's what's good about this. But you know what else I liked about this? She didn't let him steal her purse. Is she tough? I mean, I love that she's a big fat woman and she's dragging him down the street too. I mean, I just think it's this poor kid. I mean, he's gonna need therapy after getting beat up by a woman. Okay, and so she says, "It'll get washed this evening," said the large woman, starting up the street, dragging the frightened boy behind her. He looked as if he were 14 or 15, frail and willow wild in tennis shoes and blue jeans. The woman said, "You ought to be my son. I would teach you right from wrong. Least I can do right now is to wash your face. Are you hungry?" I mean, is this what you expected when someone's trying to steal a purse? I think that's why I like this story, because we don't have to be what everybody expects. "No'm," said the being drag boy. "I just want you to turn me loose." Was I bothering you when I turned that corner?" asked the woman. "No'm. But you put yourself in contact with me," said the woman. "If you think that contact is not going to last a while, you got another thought coming. When I get through with you, sir, you're going to remember Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones." That's another reason I like this story. I like that she has a big fat name, just like she's big, and she's just, and like her purse, it's all big. Sweat popped out on the boy's face and he began to struggle. Mrs. Jones stopped, jerked him around in front of her, put a half Nelson about his neck, and continued to drag him up the street. When she got to her door, she dragged the boy inside, down a hall and into a large kitchenette furnished room at the rear of the house. She switched on the light and left the door open. The boy could hear other roomers laughing and talking in the large house. Is she rich? Is this woman wealthy?
Yes. Maybe. Well, she is like. Do you think it's like she shares the home for money?
Okay, so it may not be her house she's renting, okay? So where does she live? I don't know if you've ever seen a place like this. It's a house that's probably, the rooms have been made into separate little apartments. And they don't have a toilet in there or a shower. That's down the hall you share with everybody else that lives there, right? So she lives in a one-room little kitchenette furnished apartment. So that means in the back there's one little countertop with a hot plate. It's this like little place where you could cook on. You plug it in the wall. It's just one little hot area where you could cook your food. And she had a tiny little refrigerator in there, and that's it, with a bed. And it's not much bigger than that. Okay, so in New York City, rent is really high. And even though this is a long time ago, that's probably all she could afford. All right, so she shares the bathroom down the hall, and you could hear all the other people in the house, so it's kind of a happening place, okay? She switched on the light and left the door open. The boy could hear the other roomers laughing and talking in the large house. Some of their doors were open too, so he knew he and the woman were not alone. The woman still had him by the neck in the middle of the room. She said, What is your name?" "Roger," answered the boy. "Then, Roger, you go to that sink and wash your face," said the woman, whereupon she turned him loose at last. Roger looked at the door, looked at the woman, looked at the door, and went to the sink. Why is that funny? He goes, "I'm not messing with her. I'm going to do what she told me to do." You think he could have outrun her, though?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something inside him that wanted to stay. Maybe he's getting the same impression that we're getting about Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, that she really is different, right? Let's see how different she is. Let the water run until it gets warm," she said. "Here's a clean towel." I mean, she sounds like this is the kind of mom you would want, right? Or a grandma taking good care of you. Okay, y'all wake up. Some of you are really tired, I know. All right, here we go. "You gonna take me to jail?" asked the boy, bending over the sink. "Not with that face. I would not take you nowhere." Now, did she say yes or no?
No.
I don't think she said either. She's leaving him hanging. I think her answer's funny, though. "Here I am trying to get home to cook me a bite to eat, and you snatch my pocketbook. Maybe you ain't been to supper either, late as it be, have you?" So she's worried about maybe he's needing money to go eat. So she's worried about him. But this is what I love. The boy is too dang honest. Look what he says. Wait, where is it? Your supper late. Okay, maybe you ain't been to your supper either, late as it be. Have you? There's nobody home at my house, said the boy. Then we'll eat, said the woman. I believe you're hungry or been hungry to snatch my pocketbook. And he says, I want a pair of blue suede shoes. Have y'all ever heard of blue suede shoes? You've never heard of Elvis singing Blue Suede Shoes? These are fancy, fancy shoes back in the 50s, okay? And it would be the equivalent of like wanting a pair of Jordans now, okay? You know, how expensive are Jordans? Aren't they high dollar?
They're like anywhere from $100 to $200.
They're
for normal ones, some of them.
Oh my.
Like up to $10, depending on like
Well, there you go. So wanting a pair of blue suede shoes living in this neighborhood is kind of a miracle. There's no way he could afford that now. And so she doesn't even miss a beat here. She says, well, you didn't have to snatch my pocketbook to get some blue suede shoes, said Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. You could have asked me. Isn't that weird? There's another shocking moment. Ma'am? The water dripping from his face. He stood there like an idiot, just his wet face just dripping. The boy looked at her. There was a long pause, a very long pause. And after he had dried his face and not knowing what else to do, dried it again, the boy turned around wondering what next. The door was open. He could make a dash for it. Down the hall, he would run, run, run. The woman was sitting on the daybed. It's kind of like a couch/bed. Okay, you've seen those before. After a while, she said, I were young once and I wanted things I could not get. There was another long pause. The boy's mouth opened, then he frowned, not knowing he frowned. The woman said, you thought I was going to say but, didn't you? You thought I was going to say but. Well, I wasn't going to say that. Pause. Silence. I have done things too, which I would not tell you, son, neither tell God if he didn't already know. Everybody's got something in common. Sit you down while I fix us something to eat. What do you think they have in common? What does this woman have in common, Rhea?
They both want stuff, but they can't afford it.
There you go. What else do you think they have in common? It doesn't really say it. What?
She might have like stolen.
She might have been a little thief herself at some time or done something bad. Raise your hand if you've ever done something bad in here. Everybody. I mean, that's just a common trait in man. I mean, we all have done bad things. I stole something one time. This pretty rock at my grandma's house. I know that sounds so stupid. I stole a rock. She would have, I mean, it was a special kind of rock she had tumbled and made shiny. Have you ever seen those? And I liked it, and I put it in my pocket and went home with it. I was little. I think I was 4 or 5 years old, but then at home I would look at it and put it back because it was, I'd hide it. I was a bad kid, I guess. But I stole my grandma's rock from her house. I don't think she'd have cared, but, in my heart I knew I had done something bad. I don't think I've really stolen anything else. I mean, anyway, you don't have to confess all your sins to me.
That?
I think I still have the rock in my jewelry box. Okay, so I like that she says everybody's got something in common, okay? And then she says, sit you down while I fix us something to eat. You might run that comb through your hair so you look more presentable. In another corner of the room behind a screen was a gas plate and an icebox. Miss Jones got up and went behind the screen. The woman did not watch the boy to see if he was going to run now, nor did she watch her purse, which she left behind on her daybed. Is she stupid? No? Claire, why do you think she did that? Do you think it was purposeful?
To show that she trusted him.
Yeah. So I think the best gift she's giving him tonight is a second chance. So let's look at this. But the boy took care to not sit on the far side of the room, away from the purse, where he thought she could easily see him, being honest, okay, out of the corner of her eye if she wanted to. So what did he want?
The shoe.
He wanted her trust. Isn't that cool? And he did not trust the woman not to trust him. He was leery of that, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And he did not want to be mistrusted anymore. Okay, now. Do you need somebody to go to the store, asked the boy, maybe to get some milk or something? Is he being sincere, Isabella?
Yes.
Oh, Isabella Ray, we'll go to that one next. But
okay.
Do you think he's sincere? Does he really want to help out? Someone in my last class, and I think they were wrong, said, oh, he's wanting to run away. He wants to take her money and run away and not go to the store. I don't think so. How many times could he have run away? He could have already left by now. So I don't think that's true. And I really think he was trying to make amends, like everybody wants. When we all mess up, we want to make amends. Don't believe I do, said the woman, unless you just want some sweet milk for yourself. I was going to make cocoa out of this canned milk I got here. She heated some lima beans and ham she had in the icebox, made the cocoa, and set the table. The woman did not ask the boy anything about where he lived or his folks or anything else that would embarrass him. Alyssa, why do you think she avoided conversation like that? What was she thinking about?
Her family member?
Maybe. Or what's she also trying to do? Make him feel comfortable. Why would maybe talking about his home life make him uncomfortable? Spencer? Yeah. He might not have the family he wished he had, right? So she just makes small talk. Here we go. Instead, as they ate, she told him about her job in a hotel beauty shop that stayed open late, what the work was like, and how all kinds of women came in and out, blondes, redheads, and Spanish. Then she cut him half of her 10-cent cake. Sometimes in little cafes, you can go in and buy a piece of cake wrapped like in saran wrap and take it home like a treat. And she cut her dessert in half and gave it to him. Eat some more, son, she said. When they finished eating, she got up and said, now here, take this $10 and buy yourself some blue suede shoes. Are you shocked? There's so much irony. He tries to steal from her, she gives him money. You know, I love it. Next time, do not make the mistake of latching on to my pocketbook nor nobody else's, because shoes got by devilish ways will burn your feet. I got to get my rest now, but from here on in, son, I hope you will behave yourself. She led the way down the hall to the front door and opened it. Good night. Behave yourself, boy, she said, looking into the street as he went down the steps. The boy wanted to say something other than, thank you, ma'am, to Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, but although his lips moved, he couldn't even say that as he turned at the foot of the barren stoop and looked up at the large woman in the door. Then she shut the door. And that's the whole story. Now, I need you to tell me, go ahead and stop it and then start another. I need you to tell me why almost every generation of readers since he wrote this has read this story. Why do you think? You're probably thinking, I don't know, Miss Raines, I didn't really like it. But maybe, why is it so important? I'll come to you too. Why?
Everybody wants stuff.
Everybody wants stuff. And what else about everybody?
It's like a moral and a life lesson.
It is. What's the life lesson you got out of it, India?
That people can be different, and even though like
I like that. People can be different. We all can be different. And I like that Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones gave Roger that chance, right? I mean, do you think the same outcome? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being an optimist, but what if she had like drug him down the street to jail? I don't know. I don't know what would have happened to Roger. But here's the cool thing. Langston Hughes wrote this about his own people. Why do you think that's powerful? I know India's answered a lot of questions. I'm going to ask Isabella this time because I tried to ask you earlier. Why do you think it's special that Langston Hughes wrote this story?
To show that, like, not to stereotype them.
Very good. He shows, and then in the introduction it says the beauty and the humanity of his people. Who do you think he kind of modeled Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones after? Grayson, who do you think was kind of his model for her? I mean, who was important in his life? Remember, we read that in the introduction about the author. His grandmother, his maternal grandmother, and his mom. And so it's not surprising to me that he has a strong female character in here, you know, and then Roger needing her help. Okay, now you're going to have to become a little bit of an artist. We got to do a little bit of writing first. I'm going to give each of you a sheet now that looks a lot like the rectangle on the board. And today we're going to do this assignment together and go through the steps, which you can see behind me right now. But on Friday, you're going to do this assignment on your own with a poem, so a whole different text. Okay, but today's assignment we're going to do together. All right. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to fill out this sheet. And so I need you to put your name up here in the left-hand corner. Don't put my name. You're not Jackie Raines. Put your name first and last. And then after that, I need you to put the title of the work that we just read, which is a short story, which is why I have quotation marks around it. Okay, a short story is punctuated with quotation marks. It's not underlined. And then after the title of the short story, thank you, ma'am, you're going to put the author's name by Langston Hughes. After you do that, we're going to do number 2. Choose a word that captures the essence of the story. Okay, that word has to literally be a word in the text in your story. So like read the story right now, kind of glance through it, and I want you to find a word in there that like, oh, that's what this whole story was about. Okay, so find your word. There's no exactly right answer. So we're going to put a bunch of these on the board in just a moment, and I want you just to, when you find one, raise your hand and you can keep looking. You might find more than one. Okay? My word that is really random, but I want to see what you come up with, and I'll write them on the board. Raise your hand if you find one. Yes, ma'am.
Trust.
Trust. Okay, let's put trust on the board here. Okay, another word. Yes, Rhea?
Fix.
Fix. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. And what's interesting when we do this is all the kinds of words that get up there, and almost every one of you think, oh yeah, that is. What's your word?
Combined.
Combined. Ooh, good. That's interesting. Did I spell it right, Isabella? Yeah. Okay, India?
Like alone.
Alone. Okay, good. Anyone else? Takes a while just to kind of glance through the story. We're not in a rush. Okay, Will, what's your word?
Ashamed.
Ashamed. Oh, good. Ashamed. Good. Ashamed. Okay, anyone else? Okay, yes, India?
Teach.
Teach. Okay, that's a good word too. All of these work really well. Anyone else? Yes, Bailey?
Want.
Want. Ooh, that's a good one. Every period, y'all have come up with new words. Okay, I'm going to pause right now just for the sake of time, and I'm going to write my word on the board. And here we go. I'm going to put it up here so everyone can see it. Dirty. Is that a good word? You think it'll work? Any of those would work. That's the beauty of this assignment. Any of these words I've written on the board would really work well for this assignment. So remember that on Friday, any word you choose from the poem, you've got to work with it though. It could really do, and you could really come up with some amazing things. So the next step is to write the word I've chosen in the center rectangle. So let's do that right here. Don't write it really huge. Let's write it where there's some space underneath in the center rectangle.
Write dirty.
Dirty. Write it right there. I want you to write dirty. Write my word because we're going to do this assignment together. On Friday, you get to pick your word, okay? So after you write dirty, the next thing I want us to do is to write the definition of dirty. Okay, so I'm going to read to you from the dictionary what it says for dirty. There are 9 definitions for dirty, amazingly, in the dictionary. Okay, I'm not going to use them all. I'm only going to use some of them that I liked a whole lot, okay? Okay, dirty, number 1, soiled with or as with dirt. Okay, well that's easy. Let's write part of that. I'm going to write soiled. Okay, and I'm going to put a semicolon. These are all the words I've chosen for us to use from the dictionary. Do you have to use everything from the dictionary? No, I'm going to tell you right now that you have the option of picking which words you want to put down for your definition, okay? So you have the freedom to do that. Now, the last thing I need your help with is, where do we find the word dirty in the story? Someone find it for me and tell me where it is so that I can put it up here on the board. And then I'm going to put it in quotes because it's text. Yes, India, good job. What is it?
Your face is dirty.
Okay, your face is dirty. Here we go. Write that in quotes. Your face is dirty. Okay, good. So we've written the word in the center of the rectangle. We've written the definition of the word, and now we've written the line from the text where we found it, where we found the word. Okay. Now we're going to switch to the medium-sized rectangle, this space right outside the small, and we're going to do something else. We're going to draw 3 pictures of moments in the story. We may end up just doing 2 because of time, so let's just do 2, okay? So I'm going to think, what's a moment in the story that you thought was kind of like, oh, that's an interesting moment? What's one of them? Huh? When she's beating him up and dragging him down the street. That's the one. You're Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones now. So the picture I drew was of her dragging Roger down the street, headed toward her little kitchenette apartment. Okay, now the next step, after you draw your Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, the next step is to write a description of each moment and tie in one of the words from the definition. So I'm going to try and use dirty, soiled, not clean, low, unfair, or impure in my description of that moment in the story. So I wrote underneath there, trying to tie in my word, one of the definition words. Roger tried to pull off a low-down petty theft that ended up with more than he bargained for, and ended up with more than he bargained for. Okay, so do you see how I use the word low there? Okay, now I need you to do something for me. I need you to draw another picture from the story, a moment from the story, and to write a description underneath it using, don't use low this time, but use either dirty, soiled, not clean, unfair, or impure. Okay, so draw a different picture. You can pick any moment in the story where she's sitting on the bed talking to him about, you know, having her own, where she wanted things to. It could be when he's washing his face. It could be when she gives him the money. It could be when they're eating there together. It's up to you. Pick your picture and then write your description. Okay, now we're going to do something in the very outside rectangle. Give me an abstract word that the story is about. Okay, I'm gonna ask you just to kind of give me some words. Like if I said this story is about, and you could only give me one word, what would it be? Trust. Okay, let's write some of these words down. Trust. Okay, what's another thing you'd say the story's about? What? One thing. Yes.
Teach, but like lessons.
Okay.
Have to be from the,
I'll give you 2 words. Life lessons.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be in the...
No, it doesn't have to come from the text. That's a good question. It does not. Yes.
What about
Hardship. Okay, good. Okay, another one. Yes, Grant?
Impurity.
Impurity. Okay. You don't have to use those words on the board anymore. You can just pick, like, what is the story about? Yes, ma'am.
like similarity, like they're both
commonality. Okay, just being human, kind of being human and common. I think it's about this as well. Forgiveness. Would y'all agree? And it's about a new beginning. It's about understanding each other, right? So it's about understanding. All right. Now here's what I want you to do in this bottom. I want you to write, the author believes that.
Sorry.
Okay, right in that bottom, the author believes that. What do you think Langston Hughes believed about life?
that
After reading this story, what do you think?
that like black people are different but in a good way, and they're like nice and they're not treated like that.
Very good. That black people are not treated nicely, but they are nice people. What else does he believe about life? Maybe leave black part out of it because it's all people, I think. What do you think he believes about life?
Everyone should get a second chance.
Everyone should get a second chance. What's another thing?
People shouldn't be like ignorant. towards
People shouldn't be ignorant. They should be kind. They should be generous to each other. What else? Yes.
That everybody's the same.
Everybody's the same. We all make mistakes, okay? So write one of those things down after you wrote, the author believes that. Write down what you think Langston Hughes believes. Okay, wait just a minute out there. We're almost done. Okay, I'm teaching you a really cool, powerful trick. Now, after you write your statement, Madison, what did you write?
I put that everyone's the same.
The author believes that everyone is the same, that we all have a commonality called sin, probably, or, of mistakes. Okay, now this is what I want you to do after you do that. I want you to cross out the author believes that. And all that you have left is your statement. You know what that's called? A theme statement. It's called a theme statement. Karina, what did you write down there?
Everybody needs a second chance.
Everybody needs a second chance. There you go. That's your theme statement. So now you know how to do the assignment for Friday. Do not lose this sheet, because this sheet is your example. Don't lose the story either. We're going to use it at the end of the year for a review, okay? So don't lose the story or the sheet. Don't throw them away. Good job, y'all. Good job today.